everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Danielle, the American expat mom of 3 living in Germany. So today's video, I wanted to touch on a topic that I thought would be fairly interesting. I think that I have already mentioned on here that homeschool in Germany is a big no because it's just straight up illegal. I wanted to touch on whether or not I think Germany is struggling more than, for example, the United States or England or any other country that happens to have homeschooling as an option. Also, why is it illegal in Germany? And why is it staying illegal in Germany? Well, first off, Hitler is the one who put the law against homeschooling into place. The German schooling system is more intensive than, I would say, the American or UK one, at least in the early ages. It just starts a lot sooner in terms of having to meet certain requirements, so that could also play a great deal into why they've just never revised it, because they don't believe that parents can pull it off. Also, I think over the years, especially, I have noticed German people, German couples to not that they're not family-oriented people, but they are very skill and career-driven individuals. Traditionally, women and moms, you know, they're pretty well known to stay home for a bit and look after the little ones, especially during the breastfeeding time, which in Germany we have amazing financial support to be able to do that when we want to. But my feeling is that most moms prefer to go back to work as soon as possible, and it's just a big part of the culture. I don't really think most moms would want to homeschool, even if given the choice, just based off of the general consensus of talking to mothers in my area. The idea of homeschooling having to come back into play during this crisis was like talking about the straight up plague. It seems like a lot of the moms in my area fear more the homeschooling than anything else going on in this crisis. Anything but homeschool. So everybody's different. Most of the moms in my area prefer to work or have to work. So this homeschooling business has been really interesting, and I'm definitely interested to see, especially how much we are having to homeschool right now. We are looking like we're going to go back to school maybe February 15th. But that is not for certain yet, and they have been out of school for quite a good deal of time. So I thought I would just give you my overview of how I feel like the situation has been handled and how well it seems to be working. So each school and each teacher has their own plan, just like they would in normal school, I guess you could say. Only this time round, everybody was assigned a certain kind of software to do things digitally, at least some of the time. Ideally, they were hoping all of the time, but a lot of parents opted out, especially for the little ones, because they're just not ready for the video call thing yet in particular. But it ended up being a lifesaver for some of the older kids and for some families who are full-time, can't do anything with their kids when it comes to homeschool, and that at least the child has access to their teacher somehow. I've noticed that this lockdown, we've had a much heavier load. I'm assuming it has to do with the fact that they don't want the kids to get behind. So when we had the lockdown in March, Olivia, it really only took like 2 to 3 hours to finish our homeschool. Now with the 2 kids, it does take longer, probably because there's 2 of them now in school, but it does take between 4 to 6 hours now for being a good day. It's been quite a bit of a scramble. We're finding with Olivia's teacher, she wants random things kind of dropped off throughout the week. With Leia's teacher, we drop everything off, and it's just like this high on Thursday for a whole week's worth. And it just honestly feels very all over the place. I have noticed that the teachers do seem to be getting a hang of the whole thing more and more and more. It is very hard because it is just such a juggle, because I feel like when you choose homeschooling, it's supposed to be something that works for your family and something that you can be more creative with. So if you don't want to homeschool, that can really be a pain, first off, and secondly, you have to go according to the school's guidelines and make sure all the children are reaching sort of similar milestones when the teacher doesn't have access to all of those children. So you need to be the one to make sure that your child is getting everything done during the day. And in the case of Germany, kids are given so much responsibility so incredibly early. As a parent, you're supposed to be quite hands-off, but honestly, I just don't really see how that physically works. Like, I will talk all about some of the problems I've had with the German schooling system. It's definitely not my favorite for this age range. I will make a whole other video on that. All in all, in terms of how well I think Germany's handling homeschooling, everywhere it's going a little bit different. I do think that it's getting better the more we are at it, and I feel like the teachers have even managed to give us more creative, fun projects, but there are just some days where I feel like they're just cramming us because I don't think they want the kids to get too far behind. I would say that having a child at home and trying to keep up is pretty hard, and we're only really gonna know what the outcome will be probably more towards once they start going back. Luckily for me, as you can see, I'm in my homeschool room, so I try to make it fun and enjoyable. I get asked a lot if it was legal, would I homeschool in Germany? And the answer is, during this time, I probably would have just gone ahead and homeschooled anyway, just so we were in a flow. This whole disruption of the kids' life and changing the rules and regulations and the keeping the kids in the distance, it's just all kind of weird. I would much rather just get my kids into a flow and get in and out of this situation. So in my circumstances, I probably would have chose just to homeschool throughout the whole year, just so we can have more freedom and availability and, you know, do our best, but that is not an option for us. And like I said, most of the other people in this area, like, don't really seem to have any desire to homeschool, especially after all of this. So I really don't know what the future holds in terms of if this experience is going to help open Germany's eyes to the possibilities of some of the gifts of homeschooling, or if it's just going to make it worse. After a lot of research this year, I really needed the inspiration, so I did research on homeschooling, and actually statistically, homeschooling kids actually excel in a lot of the testing. They tend to have higher IQs, grade point averages, and do more extracurricular activities, believe it or not. So I definitely don't see why, from an academic perspective, it's not legal in Germany. Honestly, I just really think the reason why it's illegal also is everything just kind of has to be a certain way in Germany. I don't know if I agree with that, but that's how it is. I will be making a video on what I think of the schooling system all in all. I'm a little nervous to make that video just because our kids still are going to school at these schools for we don't know how long, and I'd even like to go into detail about some of the stories that we have to tell you about, like some of the forms of discipline that they've used in that school, which I just really don't agree with. But, you know, we've gone and we've talked to the principal, we've talked to the teacher, and the overall consensus is that that is a standard way to discipline in a German school. So whole other video, we'll see how it goes. If anyone in the neighborhood finds that video, I'm going to be quite the popular one. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you did, and I will see you guys at the end of the week for another one. Bye!